African-American guy, originally from Roanoke, Virginia. Very romantic. Got one of these guys who wrote poetry, he's always falling in love with the life. Ken says to me, we were the 10th Congressional District. We'll form the 10th Congressional District for the election of Dr. William Edward Burkhart, the voice of the United States Senate. So at least we had the longest name, you know. But we had no organization, just the two of us. We decided to have a rally. This is probably in the fall, the early fall of 1950. We go to Reverend Gordon Taylor, who was probably the most prominent African-American clergyman in Brooklyn, with a huge Concord Baptist church, enormous church. We go to Reverend Taylor, we say we want to have a rally for Du Bois, and Taylor immediately says, you got the church. Saturday, you got the church. Now we need a big name, we need a draw, right? So Ken says, let's get Charlie Parker. So Ken and I, Charlie Parker was winding up an engagement with those guys, because at that point, a guy named Norman Granz had come up with the idea of putting strings behind Charlie Parker. Let that mellifluous alto saxophone lilt out over those strings. Magnificent. You know, you've probably heard the recording of April in Paris with the strings. So we go up there to Wednesday night at Birdland, my favorite one when I was a kid. Birdland is half empty. Ken, bon vivant, man of the world. He writes a note to Charlie Parker, and he gives the maitre d' the note and hands the maitre d' 50 cents. Hey, but it's 1950. The maitre d' takes the 50 cents, puts it in his pocket, actually goes up, to the stage and hands it to Charlie Parker. The set ends. Charlie Parker, Bird himself, comes back and sits down with us. And, Ken does the talking. Ken says to him, we're having this rally for the boys. And Charlie Parker, totally stoned. It was so, he played with this heroin. I don't know how the hell he did, but his eyeballs kept rolling up in his head. But, he knew everything about him. So he says to us, do you want me to play or to speak? So Ken gets very familiar with that, man of the world. He says, Bird, calling him Bird. He says, Bird, anything you want to do. So he says, okay, fine, I'll do it. So Ken pulls out this huge sheet of paper, and I'm sitting there kind of chuckling. We're dealing with the greatest jazz musician perhaps who ever, arguably, the greatest jazz musician of his time, and one of the greatest who ever lived. And Ken is writing the note, and he says, take the A train to Kingston through. Go to end the platform, up the stairs, turn left on Gates Avenue, proceed 6 blocks to Halls Avenue. But then Ken wisely leaves his phone number. A couple of days before the alleged rally, I'm sick. We have nothing. We've never even put out a leaflet. With nobody there. We got Charlie Parker. Ken calls me up suddenly. He's very depressed. I said, what happened? He said, I got a phone call from a woman who says she's Mrs. Parker. And Charlie was. And she says, Charlie was a little confused. That we could understand. And she said, that was his last night of his engagement. He was on his way to Chicago. He didn't realize it, but he's appearing. I was hugely, vastly relieved. But Charlie Parker is an interesting phenomenon there. Miles Davis. By that time, we had a Marxist youth organization called the Labor Youth League. How American Youth of Democracy evolved into the Labor Youth League, I'm just beginning to examine and try to figure that out now. The Labor Youth League used to have these dances at Rockland Palace up near the Polo Grounds in Manhattan. And I remember once the guy who probably didn't even really have a clear idea of who Miles Davis was gets all excited. We signed a contract with Miles Davis. And I was a bebop fanatic from high school. I really knew bebop. One thing I did know. I said, Miles Davis at a dance? Miles Davis's music is not danceable. And sure enough, had this concert. We had people in it, about 3,000 people. Miles Davis comes out, characteristically turns his back to the audience, plays brilliant music for a couple of hours. Nobody could dance a step, but it was nevertheless successful concert. There's a whole rap I'm going to have in the book about bebop, progressive jazz, and politics, you know, because this group, they're mainly returning veterans from the war, full of angst, full of anger, full of determination not to have whites steal their music, you know, to create a music that was so complex that a lot of white musicians just weren't in any position to try to copy it.